Hello, dwellers, and welcome to the basement. And we're wrapping up 2016 with a brief little review of the Star Trek Voyager episode titled 1159. This episode premiered May 5th, 1999. It was episode 23 of Voyager's fifth season. For those of you who never seen this episode, the base summary is this. Captain Janeway gets nostalgic about one of her ancestors, who she believed was a big deal, that she fought to bring the Millennium Gate Tower to a small town in Indiana, and she was a part of all the national missions to Mars. And it turns out none of this stuff is true. That basically everything she was been told about her ancestor was embellished by the Janeway family. But it is what it is. It's like 15 generations removed. If I remember what Seven said to Janeway about this. But that said, this episode is really damn good. It's one of Voyager's stronger episodes, as it really ties into the fact of the uh, we remember the past, but don't let the past tie you down to prevent things from moving forward to the future, because you never know what opportunities you might miss. And that's told very well through the story of Shannon O'Donnell and Henry Janeway, who in the episode is the owner of a bookstore, is the last holdout in this town. He's the person who is in sole opposition of the Millennium Gate, because the town and everything is the heritage, everything he's grew up, everything he's worked for, and everyone else is basically turning things away for this new facility, monstrosity, what have you, that's going to be built and to wipe out everything that was already established. But it's and so he's definitely someone who is set in his ways. And in comes into his life this redhead, who is in a transitional phase in her life, always looking for the future, the next opportunity, you know, to do what she loves. And they are total opposites, and it's a nice little romance story here that's told, and we end up seeing the natural conflict here, particularly when Shannon O'Donnell is offered an opportunity that if she can convince Henry to leave, she'll get a job as a consultant on this Millennium Gate facility, because she is a talented enough engineer. And even and sure, that drives a big wedge there, but here's the resolution that ends up coming perfectly, that regardless if she succeeded or not, she was going to get the opportunity anyway, because the person who made the offer knows all about her, knows what she can do, and says like, hey, if we have to move this project else to Ohio, and not go over the Football Hall of Fame to build it, we will happily have you on board, because you're that skilled an engineer and that insightful. And so the episode ends up coming to a head with Shannon basically going back to Henry and saying, look, I have this opportunity. I'm willing to give up this opportunity to be with you. And this kind of convinces him that here is someone who just days earlier just came into his life, and if she's willing to give up her hopes, her dreams, her future, for him to be stuck in his past, maybe get, compromise and get into the present, and then work things out from there. And I thought that was really well done. And for all intents and purposes, this is Kate Mulgrew's uh, best damn performance in the entire uh, during her entire run of on Star Trek Voyager. Because let's face it, she had all that techno babble to say, and playing basically a glorified Mary Sue character for 7 years. So you give her something that's totally out of the Star Trek lingo, and put her in something where she could just be a normal character. it definitely allowed her to shine. It gave her a lot of material to work with that she was definitely not getting while playing Captain Janeway. So it stands out in that regards. That said, that said, this episode does have one of my favorite scenes as it relates to Captain Janeway getting taken down a peg. It's a scene that happens about halfway through the episode where Seven, Harry, Tom, and the Doctor end up talking about their ancestors, and I'm not sure whose quarters. Probably, it was in Janeway's quarters, and and when they get around to Tom mentioning that one of his ancestors was a pilot who flew a low aerial glider around Mars, Janeway brings up that hey, maybe we go way back in this way because my ancestor worked on all these projects, and here's Tom, who's been firmly established as a historical nut, basically saying I know everyone who's worked on all the Mars missions from the very early ones. There was no Shannon O'Donnell that worked on them at all. No one with the last name O'Donnell, and you can just see. And again, it's a great credit to Kate Mulgrew's acting, but that is like a shot to the gut that Janeway takes. You see the wind totally knocked out of her, getting this particular revelation. So, and sure, she kind of rebounds with the understanding of it. Well, it was like history is so fragmented and things of that nature. Maybe 100 years from like 100 to 200 years from now, what are people going to remember about us here on Voyager? A few captain logs here. Neelix would probably be a Kardashian. Chakotay could be the captain. Ensign Kim could be a lieutenant. Like, but who will actually believe that? And let me see. But at the same time, as it relates to Kate Mulgrew, she also had some of the worst aged makeup put on her in the closing moments of this episode for a photograph of with her playing an elderly version of Shannon O'Donnell, and the makeup is the aged up makeup is just horrifically bad. Let's see what was else about this episode that stood out to me as I try to remember. Seven learning about her history and that one of her ancestors was named Sven Buttercup Hansen. Sven Sven, Seven Seven. So, and there ended up being a great line from Neelix to Seven regarding her potentially having offspring, and he says, "Hey, maybe you end up wanting a 7 of 9.5 running around." And the look that she gives him is like a perfect death glare. This is like, maybe not. And so that particularly stands out, and this is definitely one of those episodes that ends up hiding a lot of the weaknesses about Voyager's cast of characters in and of itself, particularly like in small doses. So it definitely was a nice break for a lot of folks. And of course, you got to give a lot of credit to the guest cast, particularly Kevin Tighe, who who played Roy DeSoto back on Emergency back in the 1970s. Uh, he did a great job portraying Henry Janeway, and making him definitely a down to earth dude that the average person can relate to and totally understand his point of view. So with that all said, the countdown is on. The final minutes until 2017 is here. Happy New Year's, everyone, and we'll be back tomorrow at some point. Maybe do a pop on to Twitch for a little bit of gaming at some point tomorrow. So until then, Have yourselves a good one, and we'll see you quite literally next year.